Hi everybody, I'm Mark Brooks with the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants.
And I'm Ray Morales, Senior Manager of Innovation and Strategic Partnerships here at the Association. And we're here today kind of to talk to you about driving innovation within your organization. Now, innovation is a word that gets thrown around a lot. You know, it means different things to different people. So just to anchor us and align what it is that we're talking about for today, we're going to let you know what we mean by innovation.
It's a fundamental, critical question. Innovation is used so many different ways, means so many different things to different people. So let maybe just baseline what we actually mean by innovation for the purposes of this conversation. I think in my mind the easiest way to articulate innovation is to sort of distinguish it from creativity. So creativity is all about expressing ideas through painting or art or music or whatever way you express your ideas. Innovation, however, is about converting that creativity into value. Value for your customers, value for your employees, value for whoever it is that you're trying to solve a problem for. And I think that value can come in the form of saving time, saving money, making money, and just generally making somebody's life a little bit easier or a little bit better. So, and I think also it can manifest itself as a product, as a service, as a new business model, a new way of doing business. And then I think also fundamentally at the simplest level, innovation can come from within your organization, from your own staff, your own colleagues, your own people, or it can also come from outside the boundaries of your organization.
No, that's a great distinction. And when you think about those two internal sources of innovation and what that really means, it's really about driving a culture of innovation within your organization. And there's a few famous examples that I'm sure everybody's heard about. Google, being the one that comes to the top of my head, is the one that they let their engineers have a certain percentage of their time to work on projects that is whatever it is they want to work on. There's another famous example of an Australian software company called Atlassian. They actually allow their employees an entire day off to focus on whatever project they want to do. And interestingly enough, they call them FedEx days because they have to deliver within 24 hours.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool example. Here at the association, we actually take a different tack. We don't have engineers, but we try to drill the culture of innovation throughout the organization through certain behaviors. And then we give the staff an opportunity to actually exhibit those behaviors through an innovation tournament called Idea Quest that kind of sources, quick innovation throughout the entire staff.
That's a really interesting thing. It's a great way to tap into the front line, the minds of your people to get ideas about how to serve customers better, in our case members better, and grow the profession or grow whatever industry you're in. One of the big challenges that I know all types of companies have that are doing contests like this, whether it's a FedEx Day or whether it's the Google Engineers thing or whether it's here at our own association, one of the big challenges is how do you incentivize your staff to actually bring their best ideas forward? How do you motivate them?
It's one of the biggest challenges. Not only, for example, when doing these types of innovation contests, it's driving the participation rate of the staff, but not only that, making sure that they repeat year after year if you're going to do an annual contest. And we think about it in terms of two sides, right? Intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. The latter is what you're thinking about. It's monetary rewards. You win the innovation contest, you get a budget to kind of implement your idea and make it a reality. And that's the one that a lot of people use. But the intrinsic motivation is one that's less often used, but no less important. And what I mean by that is a pat on the back. It's notoriety within the organization. It's that type of kind of self-awareness that
feel good about yourself.
That's exactly right. But you can't just use one or the other. I think a balance is important when you're trying to have a really nice level of motivating staff.
That's a really good point. And speaking of balance, balancing those internal innovation sources with the external, beyond the boundaries of your organization, I think is also equally important. So when I think about external innovation, driving external innovation, I think there's sort of three different basic models that one can look at, and this is applicable for all types of companies, firms, and industries. One is taking that contest or that tournament idea that you just talked about, taking it externally with your customers, for example. So I know with Netflix, years ago, Netflix put out a contest to its customers asking for help on solving an algorithm. And the algorithm was one that we're all familiar with. If you're a Netflix user, you go into Netflix, you're presented with a list of TV shows, movies, and things that Netflix thinks you're going to like based on your personality and your viewing habits and whatnot. And that algorithm was actually created through a contest with its own customers. And so Netflix had a hard time solving this. They put out the challenge to mathematicians and computer programmers throughout the whole world, and ultimately awarded, I think it was like $1 million prize for the group that solved it the best, most efficient way of creating the algorithm. So really cool way of taking that contest concept, I think, to the outside world. Another model, I think, of driving innovation externally is through strategic partnerships or strategic alliances.
Absolutely.
So a great example of this one, at least in the U.S., is when you walk into a Barnes & Noble store. Oftentimes, actually, you'll see a little booth or kiosk over to the side of Starbucks. So the idea is, the book buyers or magazine buyers can walk into a bookstore, and maybe they'll also happen to buy coffee and sit down and enjoy their coffee while they read their book. It benefits Starbucks because they're getting access to customers they would not have potentially gotten access to otherwise, and then Barnes & Noble is getting access to customers that perhaps they wouldn't have had access to otherwise as well. So it's a really cool, very complementary innovation model. And I think maybe the third type of way of driving external innovation is to tap into the ecosystem of entrepreneurs and startup companies. As a way to tap into that nimbleness, that uber creativity, the no fear of failure sort of group of people and companies to find new sources of innovation and new ways of driving innovation.
Yeah, but when you look at the ecosystem of startups, there are so many out there that how do you stay, how do you keep from being distracted from all the shiny objects?
Focus. That is the critical question. Is how do you get focused? One of my favorite quotes, and I have no idea who said this, one of my favorite quotes is, if you chase two rabbits, they will both get away. And I think the same thing is applicable with innovation. If you chase too many ideas, they're all going to slip through your fingers and you'll really accomplish nothing. And so with on this third model of innovation with the startup companies and entrepreneurs and stuff, we're actually doing that here at the association. We've launched an association in CPA.com startup accelerator, and so we're actually partnering with early stage startup companies to drive value for the accounting profession, drive value for our members, and we focused on a couple of big picture things for the future. We're focused on fintech, meaning it's artificial intelligence, automation, blockchain, that sort of thing.
Right.
And we're also focused on edtech, which is basically platforms and new ways of delivering learning content and helping professionals learn. So those are, for our purposes at least, that was how we focused for the accelerator. And I think that applies to any kind of contest, either whether it's internal or external.
Right, and it's a balance of the two. You don't want to just go all in on internal innovation and ignore the external, and vice versa. So it's important to maintain that balance of looking for internal sources of innovation as well as external sources of innovation.
And even when you're doing that, I think it's important to balance the culture of innovation internally that you're trying to cultivate and foster, making sure we've got the right incentives and motivations in place for not only your internal folks, but as well as your customers to share their best ideas and be a part of those innovations.
Right.
And then also, of course, having focus and focusing on the right challenges, the right issues to solve.
But there's no one size fits all solution for any organization when it comes to innovation.
True.
What works at Google is not going to work here at the association, for example. And so, we'd love to hear what you have done at your organization to try to drive that culture of innovation. You can put that down in the comments. We'd love to see that. And don't forget to like the video and the page so you can learn more about human intelligence.
Cool.